Hello everyone, my name is Brian Dutremaine. I'm a counselor and on-site supervisor at Abundant Grace Counseling Center. The lesson that we're going to teach today is on something that is extremely important. It's maybe one of the most important aspects of human relationships, or developing and strengthening human interaction. And it has to do with something that is a link between people that creates understanding, cooperation, and harmony. And that is, in one word, communication. What is communication? From a perspective of what we observe and experience, communication is talking, listening, and understanding. Why is communication important? Communication is a key to people feeling as though they belong, and it's important because it is something that needs to be or is used everywhere or is needed everywhere. Many people don't communicate, but communication is appropriate all the time in every situation. Communication is one of the most important elements in any human relationship. Besides helping people feel connected or the sense of belonging, and many times feeling valued and affirmed, communication can express love. It can express acceptance. Communication can express people's faith. More importantly, communication can express forgiveness, understanding, and commitment. All vital aspects of any positive human relationship. Interesting thought. Communication involves verbal, extraverbal, and nonverbal. Now we know what verbal is, but extraverbal is the way we say things, the way we say them. And nonverbal is like your body position, maybe even your appearance, but usually your facial expressions, that type of thing. All of those are part of communication. Some theorists believe that as much as 85% of communication is other than verbal or spoken words. You can see why I don't counsel over the phone or over the internet, because it's extremely awkward and for me very, very limiting. We have one mouth and we have two ears. Could this be because listening is twice as important as talking? According to theorists, belonging is one of the most powerful needs people have, strong enough to direct lives positively or negatively. A primary way of belonging is through communication, listening to others, as I just mentioned. The need to be heard by others is an important need that helps us escape our isolation and bridge the space that separates us. I'm sure you've heard the saying, I know it was one of the sayings I grew up with, no man is an island. We are created as social creatures, and that's where we're given communication. I truly believe that, to interact with others. I think, and it's not on my notes here, but the ability and the opportunity for people to truly communicate, I think, prevents incredible emotional problems, maybe even some serious emotional problems like depression, anxiety. So I think it is, though often understood, extremely important. According to some researchers, belonging is as powerful as the need to be loved. When I first heard this, it surprised me. But for many people, the sense that they belong somewhere or to somebody or some group, that can be as powerful as a need to feel loved, which is quite powerful. And again, as I mentioned, an important step towards having the need to belong, to feel as though you belong, is through communication. It was once said, communication is a soil that nourishes the plant of belonging. Taking in information and bearing witness to another's experience are the two purposes of listening. It takes two people to share a feeling, one to talk and one to listen. According to research, listening to what another is saying and feeling is as healing as well as relationship building. This applies to any relationship, but especially to those who are close to us. Examples: marital relationships, family relationships, friendships, even work relationships. Every human relationship where trust and emotional safety are important needs good, positive communication. Being listened to is a medium through which we discover ourselves as understandable and acceptable. And this reminds me, and I may touch upon it later, is that not only can communication help us feel as though we belong, it can be the bridge to help us feel loved, valued, significant, but also our self-esteem. It is human nature to care about people who listen to us. That's important. It's just human nature for us to really not only care about people that listen to us, but be drawn to them. When people are good listeners, we're attracted to them. I personally think maybe the primary reason where we're drawn to people that are good listeners is because we have needs met through them. Belonging, valued, respected, cared for. And those are powerful. If you want people to like you, listen to them. In a sense, two people listening to each other can be the cardinal rule in developing positive relationships. I think I'm going to have that put in a plaque in my room, in my counseling office, because that is so important. Two people listening to each other could be the cardinal rule in developing positive relationships. Much of what I'm sharing with you today is not just out of the literature. I've been married 42 years, and I could say I've been happily married 42 years. And I could share a lot of things and say a lot of things that people would ask me, what are the keys to an ongoing, enduring, loving relationship? But I would have to include in that list, right up towards the top, maybe at the top, is communication. Sharing, listening, and understanding. Note, reassuring and encouraging someone is as important as they are, is not the same as listening. I want to say it again. Reassuring and encouraging someone, as important as they are, is not the same as listening. It's ironic. And it kind of amazes me, but I've made my mistakes like everybody else. I'm no different. We often think communication to be talking and sharing, and that's true, but it's not the whole picture. Listening is vital, and the hardest part of communication, in my opinion. What makes a person a good listener? Okay. Number one, eye contact. If someone's talking to me and they're over here and they're sharing something and and I'm checking out the tiles in the ceiling, maybe the tiles on the floor, looking around, not only am I not truly listening and attentive to that person, but they feel as though I'm ignoring them or rejecting them. So eye contact is such a simple thing. Someone will say, well, I never do that. Well, are you watching the news when your wife is trying to speak something to you or share something with you? Or ladies, are you looking through Women's Magazine when your husband's trying to share his day? So eye contact is very, very important. Body language. Remember I said that according to some theories, 85% of communication is nonverbal? If someone significant in your life is trying to talk to you and you're kind of like sitting like this, to many people, it communicates, talk if you want, but I'm not interested. Kind of like the old cliche, talk to the hand, the ear's not listening. That's what they often feel or hear. So what do we do then? We acknowledge that we're really listening. One way we do that is not interrupting. Let them share. Not being distracted. Responding in a way that communicates that you are hearing their words and understanding their feelings. That is important. That takes practice, but it's important. One way that could be done, for instance, giving a quick example, is if someone, let's say, sharing, let's say one spouse says to the other, how was your day? The other spouse might say, oh, it was a rough day, had this problem, that happened, this. Well, you can let them know that you are being attentive and you value what they say or care how they feel by saying, wow, you had a rough day. That sounds really hard. Wow, can you tell me more? Wow. Now you've not only listened attentively, but you said, my door's open, come on in. Let's communicate. So it's really powerful. And I want to say something, and I don't know whether anyone's going to catch this or remember it, but I'm talking to men and women. That's powerful. That's powerful. That's no small thing. Really. 42 years of marriage. I know something. That is no small thing. As a professional counselor, I've been in the counseling field for over 31 years. It was one thing I've heard enough to where if I had a nickel every time I heard it, I could retire twice. And that is this. We just can't communicate. And they're exactly right. I think they want to, but don't know how. Researchers have discovered that by having unconditional acceptance, emotional healing often takes place. I want to say that again. Researchers now have discovered that by having unconditional acceptance, emotional healing often takes place, especially between relationships. But unconditional acceptance is when someone shares with you, rather than as many people do, is think about how they can rebut it, how they can disprove it, how they can maybe show the fallacy in it. No. Just listen and care. And that can be healing a relationship. Whether you agree with the issue or not, the issue is not the issue. The issue is communicating that you hear what they're saying, what they're feeling, because you value them. Quick quotation, author unknown. A child who is listened to is going to be a confident child. This is valuable for parents. So communication is not only about adults, it's about your children. In my own case, grandchildren. Work relationships. I supervise sometimes as many as over 10 interns at one time. And I think I have a really good, trusting, open relationship with them because I really make an effort to listen and demonstrate I'm listening by being attentive. getting back to parenting and communicating with children, who would have thought that along with discipline, love, and guidance, listening would be such a powerful tool in child rearing? So this is not a lecture on parenting, but it ties in. Communication ties into everything. You can say communication is a universal need. No, I'll say universal necessity. Listening empathically and non-judgmentally may be one of the most powerful tools for shaping our children. That doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say and feel, but show them that you still respect them, care for them, value them, and wish to hear them without negating their thoughts and feelings. Guidance can come after that. In fact, a little side note, again, not on my notes, but a quick little addendum here. The key to successful, it's for parents, the key to successful discipline is a good relationship. And a good relationship, part of the foundation of that, maybe the foundation, is good communication. Why don't people listen? Good question. They might have had a bad day. They might be preoccupied with something. They might assume they know what you're going to say. Quick side note, again, not on my notes, but I just have to share this. If someone asked me at this moment, from your perspective and your experience, what is the number one problem in closer relationships, married, engaged, dating, whatever, especially marital, what's the biggest problem? Other than not being able to communicate? It's both people reading each other's minds incorrectly. Again, not on my notes. Men and women are neurologically wired differently. They do not think the same way. They never will. But that's okay, as long as they know they don't, and they begin to learn how the other significant other thinks. Then they can start making adjustments and communicating. Making some assumptions of what the other person is trying to say before they can fully express themselves often prevents communication. Again, one person will try to read the other person's mind and jump in and finish the sentence for them, or give them the answer before they've completed the question, or correct them before they've completed their statement. And that shuts off communication. It's like putting out a fire with gasoline. Don't try it. It will not work. Since men and women do not think the same way or have the same emotional needs, mind reading can hinder communication, as I mentioned. When this happens, effective listening or good communication is stymied, prevented, downright made impossible, in my opinion. Listening is an art. And art can be learned, by the way. I mentioned a moment ago I was married 42 years. My wife is listening right now. And if I asked her, I know exactly this question, I know it's what she'd say. If I said, well, I've always been a good listener, after she was done gagging and choking, she would say, no. More than half of the 42 years? No. And she's exactly right. But the good news is people can learn, like me. So listening is an art. Empathy, by the way, empathy is, let me make a quick distinction here to avoid confusion. Empathy and sympathy are often used synonymously, but they're not the same thing. Sympathy is when you feel sorry for somebody. But empathy is where you feel with them. One example is a cliche really is, empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. That's empathy. That's understanding. Empathy is a core of good listening in close personal relationships. It can reach across the space between people. Communication is healing, is bonding, is strengthening. Good communication really is in a sense, an important aspect of a quality life. Unless you do live in a cave 24/7, which no one does really. We're created to be social creatures. If communication were a physical body, let's think kind of theoretically here. If communication were a physical body, caring would be the heart and listening would be the brain to the most critical organs in the human system. To experience good communication, one should try not to offer solutions or guide the other person unless asked to. In other teachings, I go a little more into how men and women are different because they're wired different. That's the way our Creator designed us. That's not going to change. But it's not a bad thing. The key is learning about each other and adapting. But this mistake is often made, and it really stymies or hinders or downright blows away communication. And that is this. And 42 years of marriage myself, I finally learned it. Not that long ago either. My wife shares a hard day and difficulties and problems she's having. The male brain, I know the answer. I'm going to fix it. This is what you got to do. This is what it has to be. This is what you want. This is what you need. No. I'm missing the whole boat. My wife wants to be listened to and she wants to be heard. She wants me to listen and hear her. And she wants some some confirmation, which is affirming. She wants some confirmation that I'm really hearing and understanding. Now, let's be fair. Many times the husband will have faults. Many, probably, like me. And the wife will want to nurture, help, assist, guide and direct to help her husband. So she'll make suggestions. The problem is the way the male brain is designed neurologically. This is a physiological fact, folks, research and everything. The way the male brain responds is you're trying to control him. You're trying to manipulate him. You're rejecting him. But mostly you're trying to control him. So the male brain will say, no, I'm not going to be controlled. Talk to the hand. The ear's not listening. So these little hindrances seem small, but they're also huge in communication. When you demonstrate a willingness to listen, you are giving the gift of understanding and earning the right to have it reciprocated or returned. Many times if, let's say, since I'm a husband, I'll talk from their perspective. My wife comes home, and I can tell she's had a challenging day. She does an incredible amount of computer work to where she has headaches. It's a lot of work. And so she comes, and I say, how was your day? So she begins to tell me. Well, I did this many records. I found these many errors in the medical records, etc., etc. What I've learned to do is to eye contact, listen, affirm I'm hearing what she's saying, both the frustration and the facts. You know what? In 5 or 10 minutes, she's fine. She needed to be heard. Not fixed, not corrected, just heard. So I discovered something that's quite powerful that I wish I knew 42 years ago. But learning and changing late is better than no changing at all. I attest to that. When you demonstrate a willingness to listen, you're given a gift of understanding and earning right for it to be reciprocated, as I just read. When I listen to her, guess what? I want to share something that's on my chest, and she listens right back. It comes right back to me. Given to be given to you. Very, very true. I think another expression when I grew up with, what you put into something is what you get out of it. Where it goes around, comes around. All the same meaning. So let me share with you some guidelines for good listening. First, concentrate, focus, be attentive to the person that's speaking to you. By the way, primarily I'm thinking in terms of marriage or close to different relations, maybe engaged, etc. But, you know, this can be powerful in a workplace. Co-worker, employee, employer, you show you're being attentive and listening and hearing them. Boy, you gain points with that. You gain points with that. Demonstrate interest. Well, being attentive, you're already demonstrating interest already. But say, wow, you can tell me more about that, or help me understand a little bit more, or asking questions of what they're saying. Once you try to encourage the speaker to say more. Counselors do this, but it's a good practice in all human communication. Wow, can you tell me a little more about that? Or what does that mean? Or well, what happened then? It shows interest. Try to grasp what the speaker is trying to express. Wow, you're really angry about that. Or, well, you feel kind of good about that. Hey, you know, all you're doing is affirming you're really listening. But it takes practice, of course, you understand that. Do not react to just the words. Listen for the underlying ideas and feelings. And it'll take time to learn. Try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. That takes even more practice. But if you kind of think of a situation in your life, or imagine it even, fantasizing it, like to see it in your mind, visualize it, or how you'd feel in the same situation. And that helps you communicate with them. And if you communicate, you feel that, wow. Wow. You've heard of drugs like Prozac for the individual, but expressing you know how they feel can be Prozac for the relationship, if there was such a thing. Major. Try to understand what the other person is getting at. This can be very challenging and takes practice, but it's very doable. Very doable. Take one step at a time. I suggest this to everyone listening today. Practice responding to what someone else is saying throughout the day. Someone you feel comfortable with. Try reflecting back on what they are saying or feeling in order to communicate that you are really listening. Expect to make mistakes. I still make them, especially with children. But if you miss what a child is feeling or saying, they can right back and tell you. Adults don't always do that. But you can kind of tell. You can sense it. And so just persevere and apply what I've shared with you today, because if it's done with an attitude of wanting to grow and improve your relationship, it's priceless. And I want to quickly add, none of this is my opinion. This is all research information. But it also agrees with my personal experience as well. as a counselor and as a husband, father and grandfather. So I encourage you to try to apply some of these principles. They can be awesome. Thank you so much, and hope you enjoyed the lesson.